And welcome everyone to the Oxford Plains Speedway as we once again welcome you into coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics for what is now the second of a two-parter for this Oxford 250. Right now we are getting ready to set what will be the final grid for our main event coming up a little bit later tonight on Podium Esports, 250 lap Oxford 250 getting set to take place. But Taylor, not before we give these guys one last chance to try and qualify for the main race.
Yes, indeed. And hello, everyone. We're here at Oxford Plains, and for the last chance qualifier, 50 laps. Only 4 drivers are guaranteed a spot to make it into the big show here later on tonight on the Podium Esports Network. But a lot of these drivers during practice that we've been watching, Blake, have been struggling a little bit with this setup. Hopefully, they can take control of the car a little bit more easier for them once things get rolling for them.
And that is something that, Taylor, as we've been up here in the booth watching practice, that's kind of been a little bit different. Of course, all of these drivers were a part of the variation of races that were run last week. So to recap that for you, we ran 4 20-lap heats, 2 consolation races of 25 laps apiece, and then, of course, our trophy dash that took part later in the night that Brandon Hawken ended up winning in that one. But that set this 14-car field for this last chance qualifier, of which out of these 14, 6 are guaranteed a spot in. However, we also have some provisionals that can come into play here for a couple of drivers, and we'll mention those drivers here throughout the broadcast in a couple of moments. But we're going to go ahead and look at our starting grid tonight for the drivers who will try to compete for those 6 guaranteed spots to start in the Oxford 250 tonight. It'll be Evan Rice who leads us from the pole, followed by Kyle Short to his outside. They'll complete row number 1. It'll be Adam Cadole starting in the inside of row number 2 with Arnold Columbia to his outside. Gary Waterworth roll off in the 5th position, followed by Andy Margot in 6th. Ethan Murkey in 7th, followed by Philip Kraus in 8th. He's one of the drivers that does have a provisional if he so needs it. Dylan Alt will roll off 9th, and Kyle Riley will round out the top 10.
Starting in the 11th position will be Benjamin Fanning, followed by Casey Nemetz, rounding out in 12th position. Rounding out your 14-car field will be Daniel Day in 13th, and Christian Peterson will round out 14th. So 50-lap dash to get into the big show here later tonight, and we will be ready to go in here a few moments.
A couple of moments, but the one thing that really sticks out about this race, 50 laps to get it done. Of course, we saw some pretty quick sprints last week. You talk about 20-lap heats, 25-lap consolation races. This is the longest these drivers will be tasked with, staying on the racetrack, keeping their tires under them. It is worth mentioning that with the tire limits that have recently been added to the iRacing series, these drivers do have one set of tires that are sitting on pit road right now, but obviously track position, I think, Taylor, from what we saw last week, is going to be king here.
Yes, track position is always king, especially on these short tracks. It's going to be difficult to pass for these drivers. They're going to have to rely on others making a mistake in order for them to capitalize on gaining position or pulling away from their competition if they're up towards the front of the field. So we'll have to see what strategy calls these drivers will make. And like you brought out with those limited pit stops or limited tires, it will make it more interesting.
It certainly will, as the pace car will pull onto pit road. The field led to the green flag by the Chase Briscoe-inspired paint scheme of Evan Rice, who gets us started. Already big trouble. Adam Cadole is already off and over here in turn 1. No caution flag flown yet, but there you can see it is now the caution flag is displayed, and Taylor, looks like somebody just got loose in that restart, and Cadole got hooked in the right rear.
Yeah, Cadole had some major issue. It looks like Arnold Columbia and the 39 Chevy Camaro had some major problems as well. In fact, spinning out of control coming off of turn 2 after making that contact with Cadole. So, as several other cars were also involved in that lap 1 incident. So, I have to see what we can do and see if we can rack them up and try again.
One other car that is at least in the back of the field here that really let these guys go. He checked up pretty hard for that wreck. That was Andy Margot, as there was another spin in turn 2. It was the 11 car of Ethan Murkey who went around dead sideways in front of the field. and you had a couple drivers who had to avoid some of that damage. The 48 gets tagged in it. The 52 of Benjamin Fleming gets some damage out of that. Daniel Day. So 50 laps, Taylor. I didn't think we'd see it this quickly. We knew these guys were going to rub fenders, but not a very clean lap number 1 here at Oxford Plains.
No, we're going to have to try again, see if we can get a little bit cleaner restart here once we go back green flag racing. But I'm pretty sure Evan Rice is kind of wanting to keep it like that, keep him up towards the front of the field, but he still has to keep an eye out on Kyle Short. He was still right on the bumper before the incident happened. So interesting strategy, interesting race we're going to have here, but hopefully we can go green for a few laps here once we go back.
I think these guys will be able to sort it out here momentarily, but let's go ahead and mention some of the drivers that we were talking about during our pre-race show that will have the option of transferring in through a provisional if they cannot find a way to qualify their way in tonight by being one of the top 6 in this last chance qualifier. Philip Kraus, Dylan Alt, Kyle Riley, and Annie Margot will be the 4 drivers that will have the option of using a provisional. They can obviously race into the top 6 and basically steal a spot from somebody else. But we'll go ahead and get us started once again. It is once again Rice with the 18 to his outside as they'll go into turn number 1. Rice able to scurry away by about a car length or 2. And here comes Gary Waterworth up and in the inside as they look 2. They now look 3 wide behind them.
Yeah, a big, brave move by the 91 of Philip Kraus as he tried to squeeze his Toyota Camry in between 2 other cars. He's on the outside, though. He's going to have to try to dive to the inside before the 52 car of Benjamin Fanning gets to his inside. But we have a battle for second right now up at the front of the field.
Battle for second. It looks like Dylan Old is going to get the best of that as he'll work his way by that SpongeBob-colored, nice-looking paint scheme there from Gary Waterworth. There's Gary the Snail, as he's so-called, on his Twitch channel, trying to hang on there in the top 3. Riley settles in 4th. Kraus, another transfer through a provisional if he needs it in 5th. And right now it is Benjamin Fanning who holds on to that 6th spot, but he's got a little bit of damage on the nose of his Toyota Supra.
Yeah, keeping an eye on right now between the battle for 6th, which is the final transfer spot between Benjamin Fanning and Kyle Short. Is about a 6/10 of a gap between the two. As we have a trouble, 62 has gone around. That is Kyle Riley, who is up inside the top 6.
And Kyle Riley has been turned around here. It looked like a little bit of contact from Philip Kraus there as they went into turn number 1. Kraus barely had a nose beneath him as they were battling there for what was inside the transfer spot of 4th and 5th position for Kraus and Riley, respectively. As we take another look at it here on the front straightaway, you see the 91 just barely a nose under Kyle Riley, gets in a little hot, and all it takes is just the slightest amount of contact to turn around the Outback Steakhouse Toyota and Kyle Riley. They'll get it sorted out, but unfortunately for Riley, it puts him outside the top 6, and we have our second caution flag of the evening.
With that, a couple of cars, it looks like one car is going to take it behind the wall. That's the 50 of Christian Peterson. He's actually not on pit road. He's actually gone behind the pit stall as he comes out. Interesting call right there. So let's see what he decides to do as he goes to the back of the field.
He goes to the back of the field. There was one car that was scored a lap down who has made his way. He'll get the Lucky Dog free pass under this caution flag. That is Arnold Columbia, who, as we mentioned, was involved in that first accident. Has a little bit of damage on the back of his 39 Chevrolet, but he is now scored back on the lead lap. So all 14 on the lead lap right now. Peterson will actually pull down and use that one set of tires that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Figures that, you know, a couple laps click by pretty quickly, and Peterson gonna go ahead, just get fresh ones right now and hopefully play the track position game if you need those tires later, which you know, Taylor, it honestly doesn't surprise me that we may see a couple of drivers pit here very early on. There's, you know, such an importance on track position that, like Peterson is right here, if you have the speed and you can eventually flip your track position, I think there's a case to be made that pitting even well before the halfway mark may be worth it here.
It could be a good strategy call given the fact of how many cautions could be. You could actually help out a little bit. And then if you get that one green flag run in between all of these cautions, you may be able to snag a few positions and possibly make your way into the top 6. So a good strategy call could possibly work out for the 50 of Christian Peterson.
It certainly could. As the lights go off atop, the pace car will be one more to go this time around as we getting set to take the green flag once again here. They'll stack them up too wide as they battle for, again, the 27th through 32nd positions on the main grid tonight. Evan Rice, Dylan Alt will get us going in turn one. And what a launch there from the driver outside of Evan Rice. And a caution flag comes out once again. They stack them up in turn one. And honestly, we'll have to see who the leader was because Alt was very close to besting Evan Rice there. But in turn one, the driver that goes around in front of the field is Daniel Day, who's in and out Burger Chevrolet, gets turned around.
Unfortunate for those drivers. It looks like also Andy Marco got involved in that incident as well with Daniel Day. So he's got some damage to the nose of his car, so he'll have to come down and try to get it repaired if he can.
We'll see if he can do that. He's got some pretty significant damage, not only on the nose, but on the tail end of his Camaro, as Daniel Day, obviously one of the drivers that has to run in the top 6 today if he wants to transfer in, as we'll get another look at it right here. There you see exactly what happened there to Daniel Day. But we'll continue to pace along here. These drivers a bit different from last week. Caution laps did not count last week. They do this week. And also, Taylor, a reported change up front. Dylan Alt has taken the lead. We talked about that he and Rice were side by side there on the back straightaway when the yellow flag came out. Not sure who they would have scored, but Alt with the strong restart, that's a big help for him. He'll get the inside lane. He gets control of the restart. And unfortunately for Evan Rice, one of those drivers that needs to be in the top 6 tonight, he's going to start in a position that you really don't want to be in. We saw last week just how detrimental it could be to start to the outside of even row number 1 and follow the way back through the field. So Rice going to have to try and hang on here on the outside lane.
It's going to be a tall order, but I'm sure he can try to get to the bottom as quickly as possible here. But anything is happening as we are now 1 to green here, as pace car will lead them out of turn 2.
Pace car will lead them onto the back stretch. Don't want to call it a straightaway here. You're nearly in a continuous turn here at the Oxford Plains Speedway for anybody who's been on iRacing for any length of time and has had to drive the absolute challenge that is this racetrack. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Great launch for Dylan Alt as he'll get us started once again. Lap 21 of 50 being put on the board right now. The side-by-side battle is between a couple of Outrun Esports teammates in Gary Waterworth and Evan Rice. Rice trying to do all he can there on the outside lane. Waterworth still sticking strong to the inside in his Chevrolet.
Still working strong on that number 98 as he tries to hold the outside. He almost will clear Waterworth as he clears off a turn 2, but here comes Gary with a big head of steam to the inside as they come across the start-finish line. Back into turn 1, not too far behind, is Philip Kraus in the 91, trying to see if he can stick his nose in there.
Well, this 2-wide battle doing a lot to hold up the rest of the field. It's allowed Philip Kraus to catch up, and before too long, it's going to allow Benjamin Fanning, Ethan Murkey, who right now holds on to the last transfer spot. He's barely hanging on over Kyle Short as they are still side by side. Now move Waterworth up into the 2nd spot. He's able to find his way by Evan Rice, but Philip Kraus making the center of the corner work for him pretty well. He's looking to try to get by Rice.
As we are now at the halfway point here, next time by one driver who made a pit stop early on, Christian Peterson. He's now up to 8th position now, right on the back bumper of Kyle Short, trying to get to his inside and make the pass. So those new tires working out for him big time, but he gets a little bit loose right there in the middle of turn 1 and 2.
Well, we talked about how loose this setup is. The drivers were certainly very cognizant of it. And how much different it was from the heats they ran last week. Also, you have to mention the different time that in-sim is being run. We were a little bit later in the evening last week, a couple hours behind, so obviously the sun bright and in the sky as we look at about 3:45 in-sim time right now. But here comes Peterson to the inside. Oh, he gets jumped by the curb as the 11 shut the door right in front of him. Don't think Peterson's going to take all too kindly to that.
No, he's not, as he once again gets back on the power and gets right to the back bumper of Ethan Murkey in that number 11. The final transfer spot is up for grabs as he goes to the high side now through 1 and 2.
Trying to do it any way he can, but I think he may just have to use the bumper eventually. Peterson looking to the outside of the FedEx Toyota. Does he have a nose outside of him? He does, but there you just see how hard it is to get the outside to work here at Oxford Plains, particularly on the straightaways where the banking starts to fall away from the racetrack. Peterson trying to do all he can, looking for a path underneath the FedEx Toyota. Is he going to get it this time? No, he doesn't. Peterson doing all he can to try and get in the top 6.
As he puts the chrome horn off of turn 2, puts it on him again down the straightaway as they go back into 3-4. Now we see the 11 jump the curve. Here's the opening that Peterson need to get to the inside as they go side by side into turn 1. Give the transfer spot over to Christian Peterson.
Well, Peterson gets on by after the mistake, and caution flag is out once again. There's one car barrel rolling here on the back straightaway. It's Kyle Riley. A little bit of contact. It was just behind. It was actually Ethan Murkey who was involved in that, and Riley, like a ramp on one of these light poles that has the ramps kind of built around it, he flies and ends up on his lid. So Riley going to have to take a long tow back to pit road, and no doubt about it, going to go several laps down here. So that is really going to shake things up. Murkey gets punted on back to the 8th position, or excuse me, the 9th position. You also have to talk about Taylor. There was a little bit of an incident that I noticed in the top 4. Evan Rice got booted out of the way by Philip Kraus, and he looked headed for revenge before that caution flag came out.
Well, we'll have to see what happens once we go back green flag racing here between those two drivers, Evan Rice and Philip Kraus. I'm sure Evan's going to keep that in mind if they both make it into the big show, if there's an opportunity, something to keep an eye on during the Podium Esports broadcast here.
It will give us something to keep an eye on, as I'm sure plenty of these drivers are at least tuned in to try and see the different racing conditions that are presented here tonight, how everybody's going to react. Again, we talk about here 50 laps is a little bit longer than what these guys were running last week, but I mean, you mentioned it, 250 laps around a track where you're going to be running door-to-door, nose-to-tail. Bumpers are going to be used up. I doubt we see anybody leave that race, Taylor, before garnering some number of incident points. I feel like they should get bonus points out if you can somehow avoid incident points for a 250-lap race at this racetrack.
This track, by far, this short track here at Oxford, is probably one of the most difficult short tracks. If you could win here on iRacing, you've accomplished something on the short track circuit. I think a lot of us have this track as a bucket list race with many major short track races that are held here in Oxford. Accordingly, right now with COVID, it makes it a little bit difficult. But, you know, a lot of big races are held up this way, and a lot of big names come out to this track to try and win at this hallowed ground here in Oxford.
Definitely a special place, as these drivers doing all they can to try and qualify their way into the Remembering Bob Bear 250, taking place, as we've mentioned earlier, on Podium Esports, as we'll hand it over to Justin Prince and Ricky Springer. They'll take the reins when we get our main event going. But here on STN, we still have a couple laps, column 13, to look forward to, as Dylan Alt, once again, a great restart for the driver of the 40. Gary Waterworth gets into second. They're side-by-side banging doors around that transfer spot. Christian Peterson making the outside work on those fresh tires. He'll bounce the 52 back into that final transfer spot.
A big power move to the outside as contact behind him between the 18 and the 61 as they go out of turn 2 right there. That 18 is all over the place. He slides loose controls of his 18 car, and Acosta could come out, and no, he tries to save it. He's out of the racing groove right now. We'll see if he is able to fire it back up or the caution will come out. He's still trying to get it going, but here comes the race leaders out of turn 4.
And it looks like Kyle Short going to be out of luck, as we are still under the green flag. He'll collect it up here on the high side of turns 1 and 2, but like anything else here at Oxford, may have had a little help in doing that. Battle for the transfer spot on now. Daniel Day with fresh tires, looking to get by the 52 machine, and he's going to make it look easy. Move the In-N-Out Burger Chevrolet, who, I mean, that's a pretty beat up. Oh, it looks like that's some intentional contact from the 18, and it's going to send Kyle Short around. Revenge was on his mind, and tempers flaring, drama and implications already in the LCQ.
Daniel Day and Kyle Short got together, bringing out the next caution. We are now going to be close to under 5 laps to go when we go back green flag racing here. So a lot is going to be at stake for that final transfer spot. Daniel Day is going to be facing a lot of heat from some drivers as a 52. Benjamin Fanning is hoping just to try to survive in order to get into the transfer spot.
It's certainly a lot, and it's why during these races you have to be cognizant of what you're doing the entire time. As we'll get another look at the original wreck that caused that. Of course, it was Daniel Day and Kyle Short who were running inside the transfer spot when Short got turned around in turns 3 and 4. Obviously wanted a caution flag that he didn't get, but felt as though he got done wrong there by Daniel Day. As we'll take a look at it. Obviously, Short, he hits the curb on his own doing. Yes, he got a shot from Day in 1 and 2, but I really don't think that was all that necessary. Obviously, you get a shot there, but the move in 3 and 4, that was pretty much Kyle Short just hitting the curb and getting out of shape on his own. I don't really know where the angst is there for Daniel Day.
I could agree with you on that, Blake, as we saw that replay. I mean, Short did lose control after hitting the curb. Daniel might have gave him a small little tap, but just because he was right in front behind him, there was nowhere for Daniel Day to go in that 61 car. So unfortunate that the tempers flare. I mean, Kyle Short had a strong race car running around the 7th and 6th to 7th position most of the night. So unfortunately for him, his day will be done.
Well, it looks like the top of the bun has been taken off of that hamburger, as Daniel Day now running what looks like the modified class here at Oxford Plains Speedway, but he's not going to care if he can hold on to this position. We've seen how important tires have been for a field that has obviously prioritized track position, but the couple of drivers that have made their way to pit road, Daniel Day being one of them, Christian Peterson, they are on the march on those fresh tires. So we'll see what we get here on the restart. This isn't a green-white checker just yet, but we will restart with 3 laps to go. Dylan Alt to the inside, Gary Waterworth to the outside of row number 1. Who gets in? We'll settle it out now. Green flag as Alt gets away, and they're battling hard and viciously. They're side by side, a couple rows deep. And here comes the 52 of Benjamin Fanning looking to get in the race.
He is able to get by Daniel Day in the 61, but a great move as well for Peterson. He moves up to 4th, getting by Evan Rice as they now come across the line. 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go as they battle side by side for 3rd, but our eyes are on Benjamin Fanning, who holds that final transfer spot. He gets into the curb with Codol right behind him. The 33 is on the curb, white flag in the air. Who is going to be the last driver to transfer in? Fanning does not have a provisional, as right behind him, Codol gets a shot from Daniel Day. Day going to dive it in deep, but it's not going to matter as they make contact. It's going to be the top 6 transferring in. Benjamin Fanning holds on to it, and Dylan Alt takes the win here at Oxford Plains as the top 6. Dylan Alt, Christian Peterson, Gary Waterworth, Philip Kraus, Evan Rice, and Benjamin Fanning. Those are the drivers who will transfer for 27th through 32nd on the starting grid for tonight's Remembering Bob Bahre 250. As the drivers who are on the outside looking in, Adam Codol, unfortunately, he does not have a provisional. He will not be in the race. Casey Nemitz will not transfer in either. Andy Margot brings it home in 9th, although he is 20th in points, so he does get that provisional to transfer into the race. Daniel Day, fortunately, no provisional for him. He is out. Arnold Columbia is out after finishing 11th. Kyle Short, 12th. Ethan Murkey in 13th. And Kyle Riley, he does get a transfer in via provisional. So although he brings it home in 14th, top 20 in points, we'll put him in. So I believe, if math serves me correct, that we're going to have 3 drivers, I believe, use that transfer in. So may be set for about a 35, 36 car field. Of course, sponsorship provisionals and whatnot pending. So I think unofficially we'll have 35 drivers make the main event. That we're going to throw it over here to Podium Esports here in just a couple of minutes. But Taylor, your thoughts before not only recapping this race, but what's going to happen here in the LCQ that may transfer over into the Oxford 250 tonight?
Well, all I can say is it was full of excitement, a lot of drama happening in this race here tonight. So only can imagine what 36 cars on Oxford's Plains Speedway is going to be like for 250 laps with these big Xfinity cars. I mean, if this LCQ was any idea, any preview to what we could see in the next race, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in to the Podium Esports Network's coverage of this great race. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be full of drama. Just tune in and watch.
Certainly so. Well, we look forward to watching that one again. If you want to click on over to Podium Esports, that event will get started very momentarily. All I have to do is set up the server, get the grid order all sorted out, and we'll have to toss it over to our friends at Podium Esports and our comrades in the booth. Obviously, we want to wish a very good broadcast and good race to Justin Pritch, Ricky Springer, and everybody over at Podium Esports. That'll bring you the Remembering Bob Bear 250 tonight for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Well, we congratulate Dylan on his win here in the LCQ. And everybody else, Peterson, Waterworth, Kraus, Rice, and Fanning, who finished top 6 and will join the rest of the field here tonight. Just stay tuned. It'll be about 30 minutes before we get queued up and ready to go for the Oxford 250. So, for Zach Johnson, for Taylor Burris, I am Blake McCandless saying so long from Oxford, and we'll see you very soon over on Podium Esports.